Hello again. My name is Michael Greger. I'm a physician, MD, general practitioner in Boston, specializing in plant-based nutrition. Hoping to spend another year on the road speaking and hope to make it to your hometown, be able to sit down and answer any questions you may have. If, however, any questions arise along the way, please feel free to call me. My phone number is 206-312-8640. My email address is mhg1@cornell.edu, and my most current contact information is always up on my website, veganmd.org. Please feel free to call me anytime for anything. Literally, I actually spend a good part of my day helping people one-on-one like this, all for free, of course, so please feel free to use me as a resource in your quest for better health. 1 million people are diagnosed with cancer every year in this country, and 1,000 die every day. It's as if a single World Trade Center tower were falling on our society every single day. Prostate cancer rates are rising every single year. Colon cancer is rising. Prostate cancer is rising. In fact, cancer rates are set to explode worldwide, according to the World Health Organization, in part because of our corporations exporting cigarettes in our diet around the world. 1 out of every 3 women watching this are going to one day be sitting in a doctor's office. The doctor's going to come back in the room with a sad look on her face. She's going to stare at the floor. She's going to say, "I'm really sorry, but it's cancer." Imagine how you're going to feel on that day. 1 out of every 2 men are going to have the same experience, being diagnosed with cancer sometime within your lifetime. We've spent $200 billion on the war on cancer, yet overall cancer death rates haven't changed in 50 years. We have lost the war on cancer. We need peace. We need prevention. Cancer forms in 4 steps, and we are going to block them all. All cancer starts with 1 cell. We have 10 trillion cells in our body, and all cancer starts when one of those cells comes in contact with a carcinogen. A carcinogen that mutates the DNA, turning the cell cancerous, which then betrays you by dividing like crazy into a tumor, which can spread and kill you or your friends or your family, but we can stop it. Step 1. A carcinogen comes in contact with one of your cells. How might we prevent that? Well, by reducing our exposure to carcinogens in the environment. What are some common carcinogens? Well, there's cigarette smoke, asbestos, radiation, pesticides. Pesticides. How might we reduce our exposure to pesticides? Yes, indeed, eat organic. Right? Anyone know what food has the highest level of pesticide residue? I'll give you a hint. It's not peaches. Nope, not apples. Worse than apples. Worse than imported grapes. Good guess. No, the food, if you want to call it that, with the highest concentration of pesticides is, what'd you say? Say it again. One more time. Yes, meat. Vegetarians have just 1 to 2% of the level of pesticides and industrial chemicals in their body. Only 1 to 2%. The most powerful known carcinogen in the world is a man-made industrial toxin called dioxin. If you hear people on the news talking about toxic waste, they're probably talking about dioxins. And through diet alone, non-vegan Americans, meaning Americans that eat meat, dairy, or eggs, are getting 22 times the maximum tolerable dose set by the EPA of dioxins. Nursing infants with non-vegan moms are getting up to 65 times the tolerable dose of toxic waste. Who has the lowest levels of dioxins in their body? Yes, vegans. Whose breast milk has the lowest levels of dioxins? Yes, indeed, vegans. So, eating vegan can help you and your family stop cancer. Last year, the most prestigious scientific body in the United States published a damning report on dioxins in our food supply, and their number 1 recommendation was that everyone in the United States should reduce their consumption of meat. And they said all meat, red meat, chicken, fish, even dairy. Dioxins are stored in animal fat, and the higher you go up on the food chain, the more concentrated these dioxins get. Yeah, but Americans just eat kind of 1 step up on the food chain, right? They plants and plant eaters, herbivores. And why are American meat eaters still getting 22 times the maximum dose? Well, for those of you who follow the mad cow disease story, you'll know that in modern corporate agribusiness, there are no herbivores. Millions of tons of fat is scraped from the carcasses of livestock and goes straight into animal feed. Not only have we made cows, pigs, chickens into meat eaters, but kind of cannibals as well. And then fat is scraped from their animal corpses and fed to other animals, and the dioxin levels get higher and higher and higher. In a landmark study of over 100,000 women, Harvard researchers found that young women who consumed the most red meat and dairy had significantly higher risk of developing breast cancer. Those who ate the most red meat and dairy had over 75% greater risk of developing breast cancer. So to help you and your family stop cancer, consider eating vegan. There's lots of other carcinogens in meat, like the nitrites in processed meats to give it that nice bloody pink color. The heterocyclic amines in grilled and fried meats. You can actually demonstrate experimentally just how carcinogenic the diets of meat eaters are. See, bacteria have the same DNA that's in people and plants and every other living thing. And so if you take bacteria in a petri dish and you expose them to something like a chemical, you can estimate just how carcinogenic that chemical is by counting how many DNA mutations it causes. The more mutations it causes, the more mutagenic it is, the higher the risk that this substance can cause cancers. So these Swedish researchers took 20 meat eaters and had them poop in a thermos, and then took meat out of their diet for 3 months and had them poop in another thermos, and then they took drops of feces from the meaty poop and dripped it on bacteria in a petri dish, and then dripped poop from the vegetarians on the other dish. And those eating meat in their diet had 40% more mutations. Their feces caused 40% more mutations than the vegetarian poop 3 months later. Researchers have tried the same thing with urine. They had meat eaters pee on some bacteria, took meat out of their diet, had them pee again, and the urine of those eating meat caused 77% more mutations. They have yet to study other bodily fluids. The bottom line is that what this research shows is that the bodies of meat eaters are just oozing carcinogens from every orifice. Almost all the studies done on plant foods show protective benefits, and almost all the studies done on animal foods, meat, dairy, and eggs, show increased cancer risk. Is it any wonder there are articles in the medical literature with titles like "The Cancerostatic Effects of Vegetarian Diets," or that the longest running study on vegetarians in history show that meat eaters had an 88% higher risk of colon cancer, 54% more prostate cancer, not to mention twice the diabetes risk and twice the high blood pressure and more rheumatoid arthritis, etc. And in terms of colon cancer, it was not just red meat. Just like switching from red meat to chicken and fish is shown to be useless for reducing your cholesterol levels, those eating white meat like chicken just once a week had 3 times more colon cancer than those that stayed away from meat altogether. The most comprehensive report on diet and cancer in history was published in 1997. Took over 4 years to complete, reviewed over 4,500 studies, from thousands of researchers across the globe, written by the top cancer researchers in the world, and after all that work, what was their number one conclusion, number one recommendation? And I quote, "Choose a diet that is predominantly plant-based, rich in a variety of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans with minimally processed starchy foods," meaning whole grains. So, fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and whole grains, that's what thousands of studies point towards for cancer prevention, a whole foods vegan diet. In the January issue of Scientific American, it was noted, quote, "Cancer is most frequent among those branches of the human race where